What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Elijah Simon of the building. I'm back once again with another YouTube video banger. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell button. If you don't hit that bell button, you'll miss all the content that I post. Uh, we're gonna be reacting to 7 horrific stories. What is it?
Very true animated stories. I cannot remember.
Yeah,
They
you know what I'm
based
saying?
on true events. So now I don't
Yeah,
like scary movies. I don't like scary stuff. So I did this. I watched these to make you got to test your boundaries, your fear. I do this on my own time at nighttime, man. That's just what I'm gonna do a reveal, whatever they call it, like an admission or something. I am scared of scary things. I don't play that. I don't like bugs. I gotta test my fears, man. I like to test my fears out sometimes. You feel me? But
man.
that's why I'm watching this because you know what I'm saying. I get scared of stuff.
If the time gets short, then we'll have to probably do a part 2 or something. But hope you guys like this video, man. Yeah, man. Let's get it.
You said you made sure the sound share, right? Good.
Yeah, I got. Yep.
This one.
Rented a trailer to stay
Still
in
lagging?
with some of my friends. We would ride our scooters back and
That's cool.
forth to each other's trailers. Keep that in mind for some context. On the second day of the tournament, I went back to my trailer to shower after my game. Out of nowhere, I heard a loud bang on the right side of the wall, which faced the outside of the trailer. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just my brother playing around. As I got out of the shower, I got a text from one of my friends asking me to ride my scooter over to their trailer and bring a wiffle ball bat so we could play. I grabbed everything and started riding over. While I was riding, I heard a cough, almost like a smoker's cough, coming from the bushes. Startled, I stopped and stared at the bush. A dirty,
Why are you
middle-aged
stopping?
man arose from the bush,
Man,
smirking at me in a really unsettling, creepy way. Without hesitating, I sped away on my scooter and didn't look back. I finally made it to my friend's trailer and we started playing wiffle ball. At one point, I was up to bat and hit a foul ball into the bushes. We searched for the ball for about an hour, but couldn't find it and eventually gave up. Just as we were turning to leave, the ball rolled right up to my ankle. I turned around and saw the same man I had seen earlier. We all screamed, ran inside the trailer, and told the adults. Unfortunately, they didn't believe us and thought we were playing a prank. Later, my family and I went back to our trailer, but I couldn't stop thinking about the man. Exhausted, I eventually fell asleep. Around 2 a.m., I woke up for no apparent reason and tried to get back to sleep. Before I continue, I need to explain that near the head of my bed, there's a tiny window with small curtains. I noticed a little light outside and moved the curtains to look out. What I saw next horrified me. The man from the bushes was standing outside, shining a flashlight near my window. I'm pretty sure he saw me, because the moment I looked, he sprinted to the window, pressed his face against the
Oh
glass.
heck no,
and started
bruh.
pounding on it.
man.
He was making weird noises and chanting. One thing he said still gives me chills to this day. He looked me in the eyes and started yelling.
He will get you. He knows where you are, and you can't hide from him.
Over and over again. I
would've
screamed as
been-
loudly as I could, waking my parents and alerting the park rangers. My parents rushed into the room, and the park rangers tackled the man outside. We called the police, who arrested him. It turned out he was a child predator who had been stalking me the entire time we were staying in the trailer park. To this day, I still wonder what might have happened if I hadn't woken up in time.
That's crazy.
That's why I don't know why people never want to believe when kids saying stuff. I know kids lie, but you gotta just, man, I don't care. This
Man,
world's crazy.
beating on the window.
It's
Crazy.
crazy. It's wild, man.
And I live in Kenya. I'm 15 years old, but this story happened 2 years ago. It's something I'll never forget. my family decided to take a trip to the coast in Mombasa. I was with some of my cousins and siblings, and after about a week, we decided to visit the beach. We stayed until sunset, and then our parents told my oldest cousin to drive us home at 9 p.m. while they went to a club nearby. Everyone was doing their own thing at the beach. I was with my cousin, let's call her Jane. Jane was my favorite cousin, and we got along like best friends. As we walked along the sand, I noticed something on the ground. It was 1,000 shillings, a lot of money in Kenya. Excited, I picked it up. Jane and I decided to keep the money a secret, not telling our siblings because we knew they'd borrow it. We couldn't stop talking about what we'd spend it on. At 9 p.m., my cousin drove us home. The place we were staying in had 6 bedrooms, and I shared one with Jane and some other female cousins. Jane and I shared a bed. That night, we stayed up watching YouTube videos before falling asleep. I woke up suddenly at 4 a.m. I thought I heard someone talking, so I assumed my cousins were still awake. I tried to get up to go to the kitchen for water, but I couldn't move. My legs and arms felt paralyzed. I tried calling out to Jane, but no words would come out. Panic set in. My eyes darted around the room, and that's when I saw it. Near the door stood a dark figure of a man.
What?
He was tall, about 6'5", and wore a long coat. My heart raced because I knew no one in my family owned such a coat. The figure started floating, and I broke out in a cold sweat. Then it spoke in a low, chilling voice.
Return me to where you found me.
I was frozen with fear, not understanding what he meant. Suddenly, I felt a pair of hands shaking me, and I woke up gasping. It was Jane. She said I was breathing heavily and sweating. When she asked me what was wrong, I told her it was just a bad dream. I stayed awake watching TikToks until sunrise, trying to shake the feeling. The next day, we went to a museum. I managed to forget about the dream for a while. Jane and I spent the money we found, and everything seemed normal. But that night, it happened again. I woke up to Jane shaking me, asking if I was okay. This time I told her about the dream. She hugged me and tried to comfort me, but I couldn't sleep. The cycle repeated for several nights. Jane grew worried and told my parents about the reoccurring nightmare. My parents decided to take me to a priest for prayers. Afterward, I started sleeping better, and the trip eventually ended. Back home, I was sad to...
Whiteside in St. Clairsville. Yes,
Hey,
we have
yeah,
the
man,
largest
they try to get rich.
new and
Get your-
pre-owned
get
vehicles.
your
Best seller,
pay.
best
Yes,
deals.
we offer the
Man.
deepest discounts.
sad to be away from Jane. That night, I went to bed thinking everything would be fine now, but the dream came back, only this time, it was worse. The man was closer to me. I could feel his presence looming over me. Trembling, I asked him why he was tormenting me. His reply made my blood run cold.
Return me to where you found me.
Finally, I understood. He was talking about the money. My heart sank. I'd already spent it. Panicked, I told him the truth. The man began to mumble strange words, and before I could react, he entered my body. A searing pain ripped through me, and then everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My mother sat beside me, looking terrified. She told me she'd heard screaming and rushed to my room, only to find me banging my head against the wall repeatedly until I collapsed, bleeding. I told her everything, the dreams, the man, the money. She took me to therapy, and over time, I started to recover. Since then, I haven't had the dream again, but I've never forgotten the man's words or the lesson he taught me. Some things are better left where you find them.
My name is Sanjana, and this is a true story that happened to me. This incident occurred when I was around 8 years old. We were having a lunch party.
What'd you think about that one?
Ooh, boy. I ain't picking up another dollar off the ground, man.
Man.
Actually, I don't really even do that anyway. But I ain't anything I see like loose on the ground, I'm just leave it be.
Man,
Okay.
it's just kind of crazy.
It is, man. That's wild.
At my house, and my friends and I were playing in the front yard. One of my friend's dads was supervising us. After a few minutes, a police car pulled up to our house, and an officer asked if we had seen a tall man dressed in all black walking around the neighborhood. We were confused and a little scared. My friend's dad responded, "No, we haven't seen anyone," and the police continued their search. Feeling frightened, we decided to go inside. My house had a street in the backyard, so everyone else left through the back to go home. My family and I stayed inside and looked out the window to see if we could spot the man. After a while, we saw him. He was creeping out from behind the bushes of the house across from us. My dad started taking pictures through the window and sent them to our friends who lived 5 blocks down, where the police were investigating. They showed the police the pictures, and the officers began searching near the area across the street. Meanwhile, I, being a naive 8-year-old, decided to open the door to get a better look at the man. He was covering his face with a hat, so I assumed he couldn't see me if I couldn't see him. My heart raced, and I didn't know what to do.
What type of show is that?
He began sprinting.
You said what?
What, bruh? How slow could, why? Like this, man, I'm gonna make sure I teach common sense into my kids, man. Like, what type of dumb are you? What you, like, come on, man. Like, I'm gonna say something that would have got me canceled. Listen, I hope my kids will have some common sense and just listen. I hope my kids will just not do nothing slow. Shoot, if I hear a noise in the basement, I ain't going to the basement, man. You feel me?
Man.
If I see a serial killer running that direction, and you know, people talking about fighting back, I'm not fighting back. I'm going. My friend fall, hey man, I'm sorry, I love you to death. You should have tripped, man. Yeah, I'm trying to live, boy. I'm just not putting myself. If I'm in a predicament where it's my life, I ain't doing nothing dumb, bro. I don't know. But man, you could be on pause the video, man. I was just upset with this little kid, man.
I feel you though.
As he ran, I saw him reaching into his pocket as if to pull something out. I thought it might be a weapon, and I stood there, frozen in fear. Just as he was about to reach the steps in front of my house, my parents noticed me standing at the door. They pulled me inside right in the nick of time. The police found him shortly after and arrested him. To this day, I'm still traumatized by that event. I often wonder what might have happened to me if my parents hadn't acted so quickly and pulled me inside.
That's
why you don't do nothing.
I've been watching your videos and I really enjoy them. I want to share a story of my own, something that happened a long time ago. This incident is what sparked my interest in ghosts and the supernatural. It was years ago, back when I was in elementary school. My older sister, my mom, and I went to visit my grandparents' house. Many of my uncles, aunts, and cousins were already there, so we had to sleep upstairs. This story takes place in what we called the Blue Room, where my mom and I slept. We called it the Blue Room because literally everything in the room was blue. The curtains, the walls, the bed sheet, you name it. One night, for some reason, I woke up at 5 in the morning. The room felt freezing cold, like there was some kind of presence nearby. I looked over at my mom, who was sleeping beside me on my left. What I saw still confuses me to this day. There was this little light floating above her head, just inches away from her face. It was a small, white light. At first, I thought it was just flickering, but I quickly realized it wasn't. It was actually spinning in circles around her head, moving so fast it almost looked like it was flickering. Being a little kid, I was curious, and I wanted to reach out and touch it, but something inside me stopped me. It was like a voice in my head was telling me, "Stay where you are." That's when my mom let out a little groan and finally opened her eyes. As soon as she did, the light stopped moving. It froze just inches from her face. My mom looked scared and confused, and we just lay there, staring at this still, glowing light until it suddenly vanished. She turned to me, her face filled with panic, and asked, "Did you see the light just now?" I replied, "You mean the one in front of your face just now?" My mom jumped out of bed, panicked, and ran to turn the bathroom light on. We ended up sitting there with the lights on until morning. We couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. At first, we thought it might have been a firefly, but the light didn't look or move like a firefly at all. When we told the rest of the family what happened, they were not surprised. They told us there had always been strange things happening in the blue room. Doors shutting on their own, lights turning on and off by themselves, all kinds of weird stuff. That's when they
So then why
mentioned
would you let somebody
something
sleep in
that
the
gave
room?
us chills.
Man, that's something
You know, I'm
wrong.
gonna say something
Something,
again. I'm gonna say something again. I got me canceled, man.
something dumb. I mean, I just don't get
You
it.
know what I'm trying to say? Common sense was heavily lacked in this sense of why are
Hmm.
you letting people sleep in a room that there's something going on in there? Like, you come on, bro. You
Man,
man. I would honestly, that make me want to fight the whole family right then and there. Like, doors are opening, shutting, lights are turning on and off, and you thought it was cool to let me and my child sleep in this room. Hey, come on, man.
ridiculous.
Come on.
Apparently, there was a family who used to live in the house before my grandparents moved in. They had a little boy who sadly died of a fever in the house. Years later, my mom told me her side of the story. She said that while she was sleeping, she thought it was already morning because of how bright the light was through her eyelids. But when she opened her eyes, she saw the little light floating just inches from her face. At first, she thought she was dreaming, but then she turned and saw me staring at her. That's when she realized it was real. I'm 18 years old now, but I still wonder what would have happened if I had reached out and touched that light. One thing is for sure, we never slept in the blue room again.
Should never slept in there in the
I
first
don't know where to
Different.
start.
Well, his
This
fault
incident is
or her
still
fault.
ongoing.
place.
I
Man,
think it was about 3 years ago when I started having this horrible dream. The dream was always similar. I was on a swing at a playground with a man, even though we are both adults. The man spoke a strange
Oh,
language. It didn't seem like an earthly language, but strangely enough, in my dream, I understood what he was trying to say. He said his name was H. Then the sunset quickly faded and night fell. Then he ran away in fear. When night fell, it became so dark that I couldn't see anything. The dream is so vivid, and when I look up at the sky, I can't see any stars or the moon. There was only darkness. You probably don't know what this kind of complete darkness is. I experienced it for the first time in this dream. It was truly a deep darkness. Then a disgusting smell started to come out, and I started hearing the growling sounds of unknown beings in the distance. The
oh
beings
no.
come towards me, emitting a red light, and then I hear the voice of that man named H shouting at me from afar.
Wake up!
The voice was so desperate and creepy. And then I woke up from the dream, and when I look at the time, it's 4 or 5 in the morning. The dream always had the same pattern. I was so confused and couldn't figure out
Oh snap.
how much I searched on Google or asked people. I couldn't figure
Is
it
the sound
out.
still sharing, cuz?
Then one day,
Hmm.
Is the sound still sharing?
Yeah, can you hear it?
Yeah, I was just making sure.
Yeah, we on that. You know, we on that time limit already.
I
How
had
much
that
how much
dream
time is
again.
left?
9 minutes.
All right, bet.
I was on a swing at the playground with H, but this time he was frowning, and he said to me,
Do you know where this is? Please don't come here.
when I asked why, he said,
This is where the soul predators exist.
I asked him what that meant, but he just looked up at the sky and ran away without saying a word. And then night came again, and I heard the cries of the strange creatures and the creepy footsteps approaching.
Oh
The
no.
footsteps sounded like thousands of feet walking. Out of curiosity, this time I decided to wait without waking up from the dream. And then I heard them whispering, getting closer, but their language was still strange, and I couldn't understand what they were saying. At that moment, I was gripped by a terrible fear. and I thought I had to wake up from the dream. Then I saw the strange creatures and heard what they were saying clearly, and I opened my eyes and woke up on the bed in my room. I immediately recorded the words the strange creatures said in my dream right on my phone. It sounded like this. Sobri rock, sobri rock, sobri rock, sobri rock. But I couldn't understand what it meant, and it didn't seem like an Earth language. I was gripped by fear, and I couldn't fall asleep again. After a while, I had a dream again, and that day, I had a really fun conversation with H in my dream. I don't remember the content of the conversation, but it was a really happy moment. And then, at some point, night came, and when the monsters approached, H screamed and tried to run away, but it was too late. The giant monsters were already in front of us, and they looked like giant centipedes. The giant centipedes ate H. The sound of H's entire body being torn apart, the sound of the centipedes chewing him up, and the vivid red color of his blood, all of that was more real than reality. I screamed like crazy, but my voice didn't come out because it was a dream. I felt pain as if my head was going to burst because I was trying so hard to scream. After a while, after the giant centipedes ate H, one of them came to me and bit my arm. It was so painful. And then I was trying to wake up from the dream. Fortunately, I opened my eyes in my bed, but what was horrible was I felt a pain in my arm. I went to the hospital, and the doctor said that my arm was very inflamed, and that if I had been a little late, it would have rotted away. Thankfully, I received treatment and recovered. But what's scarier is I keep having that dream, even now. Now, in that dream, I'm riding the swing by myself, without H, but I feel an inexplicable happiness in the playground, and ironically, that happiness makes me not want to wake up from the dream. Thankfully, I've learned how to wake up from the dream now, so I wake up before those giant centipedes appear. But I still don't know what that dream means, or why I'm always in that playground.
Dang, yeah, I don't know what they could be up.
If I were to be eaten by those centipedes.
Man, what? Man.
So,
To tell you a little about the setting of my story, my family lives across from a police station in a small village. Everything is very close to us. Just 3 doors down from our house is a shop. Friday, July 14th, 2023. I was sitting in the living room. My mom's watching TV, my granny was on the phone, and I was on my iPad when my mom suddenly sprung up from her seat and looked out the front window because she heard a noise. I shrugged it off, not thinking much about it. She said there were 2 men, one who looked to be in his 40s and the other in his 30s, running up the street screaming and shouting. The man in his 40s was wearing all black, and the man in his 30s was in a light gray tracksuit. Maybe 5 seconds after my mom sat down again, we heard a thud. My mom went out to the hall and saw the man in his 30s throwing himself against our front door. My mom, my granny, and I screamed and ran to the door. My granny and I held the door down while my mom called the police. I was shaking as I heard the man yelling, "Get out of the damn house!" while he tried to kick the door down. My mom got through to the police and told them what was happening. We could hear the man in his 40s trying to calm the younger man down. Eventually, they walked off. My mom ran upstairs to look out the small bathroom window and locate the 2 men. I ran upstairs as well and looked out my bedroom window. I saw the man who had been kicking our door come out of the house, along with the older man who had been trying to calm him down. They were both holding vodka bottles as they got into a black BMW. The car drove off and parked right outside our house. I ran downstairs and held the front door shut again. I saw the man in all black run into the shop next to our house, grab something, and then get back into the car. The police never came. What makes it scarier is that my mom has a brain tumor. If they had broken in and pushed her, she could have died. My granny had just had knee surgery. She could have been seriously injured or worse. I'm just relieved that earlier that morning I had fallen and skinned up my knees, so I didn't go out to the shop. If I had been walking back from the shop, I might have run straight into the man trying to kick down our door. it still terrifies me to imagine what might have happened if the front door had been left open.
Crazy.
I'm glad we were inside when it happened, and I'm grateful I credit on my phone so my mom could call the police.
Wow.
The person who experienced this incident is my uncle. One day, while chatting with a friend, they realized something shocking. They had both experienced a similar, unsettling event years earlier. When my uncle was young, he worked as a shepherd, grazing sheep in the mountains near his village. His work required him to stay with the sheep from noon until morning, often spending nights out in the mountains. On one evening, my uncle fell asleep while herding the sheep. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, he woke up and saw a creature unlike anything he had ever seen before. It had the head of a goat, but the body of a human. The creature was unclothed, with hooves for feet.
Man.
At first, my uncle thought he was hallucinating, but the creature didn't disappear. It was a human and stared directly at him. Alarmed, my uncle
I'm like,
grabbed
what
his
you want,
shotgun
cuz?
and fired
Better grab
several
that strap.
shots at the goat-headed figure. After that, the creature walked. Years later, when my uncle told this story to his friend was shocked. To my uncle's surprise, his friend revealed that he had also encountered the same kind of creature years ago. The friend recounted how, one morning close to sunrise, he too had fallen asleep while herding sheep in the same mountains. When he woke up, he saw a creature with a goat's head and a human body standing right beside him. However, unlike my uncle's encounter, this creature didn't come towards him. Instead, it spoke in a strange, inhuman language before walking away. Both my uncle and his friend agreed that what they had seen was real. They described the creature in identical detail, from its unsettling goat-like eyes that moved naturally to its eerie tongue and mouth. Both were certain it wasn't a hallucination or imagination. They had both witnessed the same disturbing figure.
Oh, heck no.
This happened 17 years ago, when I was 10 years old, living in the Philippines. My grandmother, Yolina, owned a farm and a bunch of animals. I had 4 cousins at the time: Pablo, Teresita, Alejandro, and Josephine. Each of us had different chores on the farm. I took care of the chickens and cows in the barn, while they looked after the sheep.
You know Harbor Freight for affordability, but durability goes right along with it. You see, we test, and then we test again.
With their ads, man, they go get their money.
Dogs. My
Man.
grandmother harvested fruits and vegetables. The first strange event happened when Alejandro was 9 years old. One night, grandmother asked him to fetch some beets, so he went out around 9 p.m. and didn't return until an hour and a half later. When he came back empty-handed, grandmother asked him where the beets were, but Alejandro just looked at her, confused. "I don't know what you mean," he said. He told her he had only gone to the outdoor bathroom and returned. He never heard grandmother ask for beets. After using the bathroom, he stayed outside playing with our 2 dogs, Lovely and Jean. So, who was it that went out after hearing grandmother's request? The next incident happened to Teresita. It was around 7 p.m. when she went outside to feed the dogs. She came back 30 minutes later, but something was off. She didn't have the empty food container with her like she usually did. Grandmother noticed laughter coming from Teresita's room.
Oh, heck no. What type of creatures is out in them woods?
"Why did you just come
Man.
inside?" But Teresita looked confused.
Grandmother, I haven't left my room since 6 p.m.
Grandmother thought she was lying and scolded her. So who had grandmother seen outside? Then it happened to Pablo. One day, he stayed in his room all day and never came out. Grandmother left food outside his door, and each time she checked, the plate was empty. She assumed he was inside and didn't worry. But at around 5 p.m., Pablo walked through the front door.
Hello, I just got back from the field.
He said, holding a bundle of wheat, carrots, and potatoes.
It took me a while to gather these.
We all stared at him in shock. Grandmother rushed to his room, flung the door open. No one was there. So who had been eating all the food that day? After all this, grandmother finally said, "We're moving." Soon after, we sold the house and left. Before we moved, we asked the neighbors if they knew anything about the house's history. They said,
Many people hanged themselves from the large tree that stood there before the house was built, and previous owners have reported seeing doppelgangers.
and that's when we realized what we had seen were not our real family members. They were doppelgangers.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Wicked.
crazy.
So that's some
Hi,
like, come
my name
on,
is
man.
This story happened in the early 80s when I was about 5 years old.
Oh, the 80s. My mom's time.
Friends who were,
Man.
on average, 2 years older than me. I was always known as a risk taker and was open to challenges, no matter how dangerous, even as a kid. One day, I was playing with my friends and we decided to go to a nearby birch forest, just across the road from my house. It was said to be haunted, but we went there anyway. It was just before evening. The sky was gray, and as we reached the birch forest, the atmosphere felt heavier, almost suffocating. This place was known for having dead trees, and people usually avoided it. By the time all 5 of us stepped inside, the uneasy feeling grew stronger, but we kept going until we came across an abandoned truck among the trees. Right next to it, we found some old planks, sat down, and started telling each other scary stories. One of my friends, let's call her Anna, started talking about a mysterious lady in red, rumored to be a witch who lived just a few blocks away. The thing was, the witch was still alive, and no one really wanted to mess with her. At one point, while we were swapping ghost stories, a sudden gust of wind swept through, making everything feel even more creepy. Then, as I turned around, I saw a red shawl or dress floating in the air near one of the birch trees, and it was moving toward us. That's when we ran, all of us. Being the youngest, I struggled to keep up. My friends could be a little mean sometimes, always making me prove how tough I was. They had already taken off, leaving me behind, while I ran as fast as I could, heart pounding and short of breath. I looked back, there it was, a red dress, strangely clean and bright for a place like that, still coming toward me. I pushed myself
what?
harder, lungs burning, and finally made it home, still convinced that the lady in red was following me. I never told my parents about what happened, but what could it have been? A floating red dress? A ghost? Something worse? I might have the answer. I haven't mentioned this yet, but there were always terrifying screams coming from a mansion near one of my friends' houses. Except it wasn't just a mansion, it was supposedly a mental asylum, surrounded by electric fences. It looked abandoned. Locals said the woman who screamed was Greek and a so-called mental patient, but I have my doubts. That mental asylum was weirdly close to regular houses, yet no one ever came or went. No cars, no visitors, every window was shut. Who knows, maybe that poor woman was being tortured by some psycho, and somehow that led us to seeing the lady in red. People whispered about black magic, drug-related murders, and maniacs hiding in the neighborhood. I just hope, whatever it was, that it wasn't real. And worst of all, I hope it never follows me again.
That's great.
Oh, like you jumped there. What happened?
Hi, my name is Kai, and this happened to me when I was roughly 7 years old.
Hi, my name is Scott.
I was out walking with my mother and her friend as the sun was beginning to set. We had been walking for a while when we decided to start heading back home. The sun had completely vanished, and it was dark. As we were walking on the sidewalk, I decided to go ahead of my mother and her friend. I don't really know why I did.
Like a big guy.
Maybe it was to feel a bit more independent. Soon after I walked away from them, I heard a door from one of the houses behind me swinging open and slamming into the side of the house. A man walked out and began walking down the sidewalk that I was on. I didn't think much of it, but after a while of him following me, my young mind began to create scenarios. Fear began to get the best of me, and I turned around to see the man still behind me. He had curly hair and a mustache, and wore a
Where the heck is his mom at?
sweater with old glasses. He
Man,
saw me notice him, but continued to walk closer. I decided to turn left and cross the street to the other sidewalk. My heart sank when he did the same. When he got to the sidewalk I was on, he frantically looked around, as if he were checking to see if someone was watching him. Then he continued after me. As he got closer and closer, I saw my mother walking on the sidewalk across the street, and I took my chance to run. I have never forgotten what happened after I ran to her. I turned to see the man staring at me from over his shoulder. His eyes were crazed, glaring at me with anger. Then he ran away, and I heard the same door slam shut. We went home, and I told my mom. I thought she didn't believe me, but later I found out that she did believe me and was trying not to scare me. Many years after that event, I went back to the house where the man had come from. I knocked on the door to be greeted by an old couple. I played it off as an accident and walked away. My friends and I have also reported seeing the man in an old, rusty, purple car. One day, after walking home from school, we went up to the car and looked through the window. The back seats had been ripped out. There were saws, hammers, and other tools lying in the back of the car. I don't think the intentions of that man were good. To
dang.
this day, I occasionally wonder what would have happened if I hadn't run back to my mother, or if I hadn't kept walking.
Well, they got deep fried because he want to be all
Man.
macho
I'd
man.
like to stay anonymous, but I would like people to know that I am a 15-year-old girl, and this took place in a medium-sized
What?
town
We just started.
in
What the
northeast
f-
Maryland. One day, I was driving home from my
Bro, ain't
friend's
no
house.
way.
My dad and I were on the road,
What
late
happened?
at night, and the only lights
Started a time
illuminating our
limit
path
again.
were our car's headlights and the
Yeah,
street
I told you, I
lights.
think it's
I
based off
remember
the
this
meeting
night.
time
It
too.
was a
Yeah,
quiet
that's
So we already
weird.
in a meeting.
We
That's
live in
what
the
it is.
suburbs, but not many people were out. So when we saw this thing, my dad and I were the only ones to witness it. As we approached a roundabout, we both saw something in the distance that we first presumed to be a bird, but at the same time, it was huge and had a human-like body, unlike anything my dad or I had ever seen before. As we got closer, it suddenly extended its wings and flew away. As we exited the roundabout and got closer to home, I turned to my dad and said, "Did you see that? Or am I just hallucinating?" He had fear in his eyes, completely shocked as we drove the rest of the way home. When we arrived, my dad and I told my brother what had happened, but he just laughed and shrugged it off. I had a hard time sleeping that night. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. About a year later, we discovered a YouTube channel featuring videos about supernatural creatures and theories. One video in particular got our attention, and as we watched, we realized something. We think we know exactly what we saw that night. The Mothman. There have been sightings all over the world, but none here. Why is it in our town? Why did it want us to see it? I'm still terrified thinking about it to this day, knowing that it may still be out there, lurking. From when I was about 8 years old, I can remember one night so clearly. My parents were leaving town for a wedding, and it was about 7 p.m. And mind you, I was going to be home all by myself. Before they left, they told me to lock the door and don't open it for anyone. And they said they would be back by 11 or 12. They told me to be asleep when they returned. I said bye to them, locked the door, and went back to playing with my toys in my room. Everything was going fine until I got this uneasy feeling, like someone was watching me. I shrugged it off, thinking it was nothing. Then 2 hours passed, and I wanted to cook something to entertain myself. I went to the kitchen and started grabbing things out of the refrigerator. Onions, cucumbers, tomatoes, etc. Then that feeling came back, but I shrugged it off again and didn't think about it. Mind you, I was a very brave kid, so that's why my parents left me by myself. I was starting to cut things and cook things, edible or not. Half an hour passed, and while I was cutting, I felt like I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, and then I saw a gray-looking creature with dark
Oh,
eyes,
heck no.
bald, tall,
Man.
and creepy looking. It did not look anything like a human at all. It saw me looking at it, and then it vanished. I was frozen completely.
I would have
I
been
didn't
frozen
even
too.
move
I
or
wouldn't know what to
shake.
do because
I
I
was
might have just run
blank.
outside.
After a few minutes, I cleaned up and started looking around the house. I was 8, so I wasn't thinking too much about it or what it could be. I checked the time, and it was past 10. I put on my PJs, brushed my teeth, and prepared for bed. I fell asleep quickly. Then, a few hours passed, and I felt like someone was watching me. I opened my eyes and stood up. Then my shoulder felt like it
Yeah.
weighed down, like something was pushing it down. I thought it was a reflex, but why would a reflex happen at this time? Then, as I looked at my doorway, I saw that creature again. We both looked at each other for a long 3 minutes. I was frozen again. Then I screamed as loud as I could, and I started to cry. By that time, my parents had already come home. My dad ran into my room and asked me what was wrong. I pointed at that thing, but he couldn't see it. And then it was gone, just like before. After that, it never appeared again. I hope it never comes back. I'm just so glad my parents were there to help me. But what if my parents had never come home? What would have happened to me?
Oh, dude, that one caught me. I almost jumped.
Man,
God, that's crazy, man.
you ain't catching me doing uh. But I hope y'all like this video, man.
For real.
Make sure you like
So let's say it right, man. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button, man.
man.
You know what I'm saying? If you haven't, you missing out on good content. You
You
know?
know what I'm saying? I'm at 93 subscribers. Shout out to all my subscribers out there. Road to 100. That's the goal. But
Next is the road to 200 after that. You already know.
man, to a
Keep pushing.
thousand. Don't worry about that. I ain't gonna say too much, but what do you think about the video, man?
Man, some people just need more common sense. That's what I would say. Like, some people don't think.
Facts.
But
Same
the
here.
upstairs areas were rough. They were just stuck in them like the last one. You know, just you're in the house and this creature keep appearing, so there ain't nothing you really can do.
Man,
And there were 8. So
facts. Never watch stuff on YouTube. Like, come on now. Like with the creature, whatever they was doing. Yeah.
yeah.
But I hope you guys like this video, man. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next one. We out. Peace.